Hi, I'm Susanna Crawford, GiveSmart's community manager, and this is a jam session. Our quick conversations with fundraising professionals to share how they have successfully and creatively diversified their funds, all in hopes that you can do it too. Today, we're talking about virtual galas and how the Nomi Network found fundraising success. Joining us today is Nomi Network's development associate, Elisa Hardens. Elisa, thank you for being here. We're going to start off with some rapid fire questions. Lisa, are you ready?
Yes.
Awesome. What is the mission of the Nomi Network and how many people have you served to this date?
At Nomi Network, our mission is to end human trafficking by creating pathways to safe employment, empowering women and girls to break cycles of slavery in their families and their communities. We were founded in 2009, and as of today, we have served around 10,000 women.
Wow. And how much did this virtual gala raise for you, and what does that look like in comparison to other years?
So this past gala raised a little over $350,000. And while at our past in-person galas, we have raised more than that, due to the low costs of our virtual gala, this gala had the highest net amount.
Amazing. Yes, that's what we're seeing. And last question here, what is your fundraising superpower?
I would say my fundraising superpower is staying organized. I think it's really important, especially when we have big events like this and there's a lot of deadlines and tasks and different people working to make the event happen. It's really important to keep track of everything.
Absolutely, that is key. Okay, so let's jump into your event. What elements were involved in the production and what was something that you feel pushed it over the top?
Sure. So our gala was mainly pre-recorded, and then we did do a live component at the end. So we had a videographer put together the pre-recorded part. So that was helpful because we could edit it all beforehand, especially we had honorary speeches that we could cut down thanks to it being pre-recorded instead of in those in-person galas where sometimes you want to cut them off while they're going a little longer. We also, like I said, did a live component. So we used a platform called Switcher Studio, and that allowed us to combine our pre-recorded video with a live interview at the end, and then to stream that onto YouTube Live. And for our gala, we also sold tickets. And so we had tickets available and sponsorships for foundations and corporations and just other higher potential people. And those tickets, we had a few levels that people could choose from. And so the higher ones had more perks that came with them, such as food and wine. So we actually did ship out bottles of wine to people who bought those tickets. And then for the food component, we did a combination of meal kits from a meal delivery company called Sunbasket. And then also to some, we just sent out Grubhub gift cards. And then our gala, also during the program, we did have a silent auction. So we opened that up about a week before our event and then closed it during the gala. And we also had calls for people to donate both before the night of the gala and then throughout the program. And one of our other things that we did to try to make the event more engaging for everyone who was attending is we did encourage people, especially those who invited others and were hosting kind of a virtual table. We encouraged them to host a Zoom party, and that way they could watch the event with their other attendees, even if they couldn't be together in person. And then we actually got some of the links to those Zooms and had our president and the head of our development team kind of pop in throughout the night to say hi and just talk with those supporters even more.
Fantastic. You guys had a lot moving on and that's awesome. And can you go into a little bit more detail about those elements that you felt really were fantastic?
Sure. So I think one of the most successful and just easiest parts for all of our attendees was how we housed all of our materials in one place. So we used our GiveSmart event page kind of as the main hub for everything. And that is where we had people who had already committed to be sponsors or to be table hosts were posted there. We also had materials available to download for people who were interested in sponsoring or hosting a table. On that page, we also had options to donate. That's where people bought tickets as well to the event. We also did have our videographer put together a little promo for our gala. And so we did send that out in emails and posted it on social media, but we also housed that on our event page. And so I think just having it all there, we could just send that link to everyone and everything they would need was there. And like I said, since our tickets were through there, a lot of people had purchased them and then had their credit card already registered months out from the event. So that also just made things a lot easier when the event came.
Yes, that's huge. And could you go into a little more detail around your ticketing options that you had?
Yes, so we did do a few different ticket levels. Our lowest level was $25, and we found that was good, like low enough to not bar anyone from entry, but also kind of made sure the people who did attend our event were interested in our work and in our mission. So we had that level, and then we had a few different attendee levels that were higher, and those came with more perks like the food and wine that I mentioned earlier.
Fantastic. I think they're great. And we can see here on the screen as well those ticket levels. But let's dive in. You also, when we first talked, you said there were a lot of lessons learned throughout this, and that's a huge part of trying something and going through. So, from the experience, can you walk us through a few of those lessons learned so that others can take away that?
Yes, of course. We definitely learned a few things in this process. I'd say one of the first ones is we did do a good job of in our event itself connecting it to our mission and really tying all the parts. So even the honoree speeches, we had musical performances that we made sure the songs connected to our work, things like that. But one thing looking back, we would do differently is providing a little more basic information about our organization. So really taking into consideration that there may be a lot of new people who don't know anything about Nomi Network that attend the event and making sure they have a good understanding of what our programs actually are and what we really do going into the rest of the event. Another thing is we did do a little pre-gala session over Zoom right before the event. And it was set up as a Q&A with our 4 honorees. And so we targeted some higher level donors and invited them to the event. And the event itself, we had each honoree in a breakout room. So there were 4 breakout rooms, and we separated all the guests into those. And it was about 45 minutes long because we didn't want to have a huge event right before our hour-long gala. And the general feedback from that was people really enjoyed the session and actually wish that it had been longer. So I think in the future we may kind of extend that or maybe do it, the day before just to separate it out a bit. And also probably look at limiting the number of guests just so the groups are smaller and they can really engage more with each other and the honoree or whoever the guest is. Another thing
Takeaway. Yeah.
Yeah, another thing we also learned is, as I mentioned earlier, we did encourage people to host Zoom watch parties, is kind of what we called them, to be able to watch with their guests. And some people really took to this and had a great time, and it was really successful. There were a few people who were just a little confused on how exactly to go about that. So I think in the future, just providing more instructions on, the fact that they would have to set up the Zoom themselves. We couldn't do that, recommending whether they screen share or not, just a little more detail around, especially when it comes to technology. Step by steps is like the
Yes.
best for people we found. And then I would say probably one of the main things we learned is really to check your local laws. So we ran into this with 2 different parts of our gala. The first was the shipping of the wine. So we had prepared to ship all these bottles out, and then we actually learned that we could not do it. We don't have the required licensing as a nonprofit to be able to ship out wine across the country. And we did have to get an ABC license just to have alcohol in our auction, actually. So we kind of thought that would apply to the shipping. However, it did not. So we were lucky enough to have a few supporters in the wine industry that actually kind of took over and shipped out the wine for us since they had the required licensing. But that was definitely a learning for us.
Yeah.
And the other one around the laws is our auction. So our auction actually started out as a raffle. And so we had that kind of all set to go. And then the morning of the day we were going to open the raffle, we had heard back from the New York Gaming Commission that we could not do an online raffle because in New York State it's viewed as online gambling. So very quickly we had to pivot everything. Luckily, it wasn't too hard since a lot of the pictures and the information was already in GiveSmart. We just had to come up with our, starting bids and the bid increments and just get that together within a few hours so that we could still open it on time.
Sure. Those are fantastic takeaways. Check your laws, check your local listings. And it's great to hear that you were able to pivot so quickly with things and have those supporters to back you up. And it's great to have you here sharing your story so that other people's learn now. So great. Last question that we'll go through. As you look for your 2021, what's ahead for the Nomi Network?
Yeah, so in terms of our next gala, this year's gala we have scheduled not till the fall, and we do have a deposit down on an event space back from last year that just keeps getting pushed. So we are hoping to be able to do it in person. With that said, even if we do it in person, we still are going to have a virtual component to it. We just saw a lot of benefits with that this past year and being able to incorporate people from all over the country, even the world. So we definitely want to keep up with having a virtual component to our events. And we also are just adding a lot more virtual events in general to our kind of event slate this year. So we're just brainstorming around different things. We are in the planning phases of, in a month or so, having a small virtual event over Zoom where we kind of go through the training that we teach the trainees in our program and have supporters go through that. So sending them all the needed materials and supplies and really letting them see what exactly the women in our program go through and getting them a better idea of our work.
That's fantastic. As I've said, I love the idea of connecting your mission into your virtual events and what you're doing. So that wraps us up for today. Elisa, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. And thank you all for listening to this GiveSmart Jam session. To connect with stellar fundraisers like Elisa and find more resources like this, register for the GiveSmart community at this link provided right here. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much.
Thanks.